Finally, a blast of winter hits Toronto, snarling the evening rush hour.
Month with no snow, and then suddenly this.
Collisions scattered across the region and transit delays for many. We'll track out the weather concern you need to pay attention to next.
And there's no more safety anymore. I'm scared right now.
Plus, rattled neighbors after a violent home invasion in a small community north of Toronto. The details on the suspect's vehicles that police hope will help crack the case.
The sky's the limit as to what we can do. We can take a tremendous amount of pressure off of the hospitals.
And a new push from some doctors supporting Doug Ford's plan to move more medical procedures to private clinics. Hi there, I'm Chris Glover. Thank you for joining us on a blustery Thursday evening. After a winter that barely was, finally today we saw some decent snow accumulation, even here in the downtown. And the little blast of winter causing the usual frustrations, especially for the evening commute home. Annam Khan is live tonight near College and Ossington. And Annam, what are conditions looking like out there right now?
Well, Chris, the snow stopped earlier this evening, but now the real story is the wind, which just randomly hits you in the face. I know it's going to get worse as the evening progresses, but it's also super duper icy here. I just literally slid in front of the camera for you. But yes, earlier today, lots of traffic, congestion, and unfortunately, lots of crashes too. And really the impact of the snowstorm was on traffic during rush hour. It's mid-February, and here in Midtown Toronto, Charles Trapunski is cleaning the snow off his car.
A month with no snow, and then suddenly this.
Trapunski says he spent many winters in the city, but none this unpredictable.
You don't know how to dress, you don't know what to prepare for, you don't know what the day is going to bring you.
Environment Canada warning drivers with a winter weather travel advisory. Heavy snowfall causing slow commutes through the afternoon rush hour, even affecting public transportation. Ralph Tioli kept checking bus times on his phone, hoping to make it to his plans.
My daughter bought me for Christmas an opera that happens to be tonight, and I thought this would be the best way of doing it, and the time keeps changing.
With the bus delayed an hour, he chooses to walk to the next stop instead. The poor driving conditions resulting in several collisions. A snowplow struck a police vehicle at Birthmount and Danforth, where a multi-vehicle collision also involved a bus. And here by Ossington Avenue and College Street, a truck drove right into a garage. Police say the circumstances around the collision are unknown. I spoke to some of the neighbors over here, and they told me that they heard a really loud sound, like thunder almost. And when they came out, they saw the garage collapse, and the driver was taken to the hospital. Police say he's suffering serious but non-life-threatening injuries. This evening, OPP saying the weather caught a lot of drivers by surprise, with police monitoring over dozens of collisions.
We had problems with transport trucks not able to climb even the slight grades, causing a complete blockage of some roads and highways across the region.
The TTC saying they're monitoring over 50 bus stops with heavy snow, even deploying additional buses in areas affected by weather conditions. And the City of Toronto saying it'll be sending crews to clean up multiple times.
So after they finish their first round and second round of salting and plowing, we anticipate that with the blowing snow, there's going to be a need to go back out again, especially on the roads and the sidewalks.
We know how this weather affects flights, so several flights at Pearson are delayed, and the city says it'll clean up roads and sidewalks that'll go well into tomorrow. So cleanup is not done yet.
All right, Annam, sounds good. Thank you for this live reporting tonight. And right now it is -1, but with that wind that Annam was just talking about, it feels more like -8. So let's get right to Victor Paolo tonight with the forecast. And Victor, the wind is really quite something tonight.
Indeed, the wind is the big factor, especially right now at 11 o'clock. We're expecting the gusts to be near 70, 72 kilometers per hour. And by the time we start our morning around 6 o'clock, it's going to be around 60 kilometers per hour. Now, we have some flurries in store on and off between about right now all the way through to about your Sunday night. And we're taking a look at the weekend. Well, it's going to be a bit of sun, a bit of cloud, and also, as we just talked about, a bit of flurries. Your average high for today is -1.2, and your average low is -9.8. Just take a quick note. These temperatures are slowly but surely getting higher, which means we're slowly but surely getting ourselves back into the warmer season. Now, we did talk about the wind, and here's what it's looking like. We're expecting around 72 km/h gusts at the time the show starts, like we just discussed. And as we get around 6 o'clock in the morning, it's going to get all the way down to your 60s. Quick look at our 3-day forecast. Well, we got some sun in store for Friday with a bit of flurries. Saturday and Sunday, more cloud cover with some flurries. But I know for sure you want to stay tuned to Chris and I as we go over what else is expected for your weather. Over to you, Chris.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Victor. Now to some developing news. In Toronto, police have arrested one woman and are searching for a male suspect after a stabbing at Wilson subway station at around rush hour today. A man was seriously injured in that stabbing, and police say it happened at 5:30. The station was evacuated immediately, and subway trains are still bypassing the station while the investigation continues. The woman who was arrested suffered minor injuries and was taken to hospital. The outstanding male suspect is described as black, wearing all black clothing, and around 5'11". Now let's turn our attention north of the city to a violent home invasion in East Gwillimbury. Security footage shows suspects smashing their way into a home, and police are looking for help identifying them. Patrick Swadden has the story.
York police say they responded to a home invasion in the area of Charlotte Abbey Drive and Holland Landing in East Gwillimbury around midnight on Tuesday. Surveillance footage captured inside the home shows suspects smashing their way in. The victim grabs a golf club but quickly drops it when he realizes the men are armed.
The victim called us saying that suspect had entered his home and had actually pistol whipped him while demanding money.
Police say the suspects left in a light-colored vehicle, taking valuables with them. The victim was treated by paramedics for minor injuries. Another person in the house was uninjured. The incident has residents in the area nervous.
Canada's no more safety anymore. I'm scared right now.
It doesn't feel, to tell you the truth, safe with car thefts, and home invasions is becoming like a thing.
Tarek Marushi lives across the street. He says two people actually tried to break into the same house last Friday morning.
They tried to break in. I think when she opened and she freaked out, they ran away. And it's scary to know how, if it's them, they had the guts to try again after like 4 or 5 days.
Constable Lisa Moskaluk says quite often with similar investigations, suspects are part of crews known to police.
And that's why we want to try to get as much witness information as we can.
Which, she says, can help them identify vehicles investigators are aware of. Data from the York region show an increase in home invasions in recent years, though police say lower numbers in 2021 and 22 could be the result of more people working from home during the pandemic. Moskaluk says try to have a plan in place, but don't fight back if your home is invaded.
Phone 911 and leave the line open. You don't need to talk. Try to remain quiet and calm and be as quiet as you can. Leave the line open and we'll respond right away for a non-communication.
Police say they've canvassed this neighborhood for information, including any surveillance footage that may help them in their investigation. They're asking anyone with information to contact York Regional Police's Hold-Up Unit or Crime Stoppers. Patrick Swadden, CBC News, East Gwillimbury.
Back in Toronto, the police service is seeking the public's assistance to identify a deceased man. Police have released an artist's rendition of the man in the hope someone may recognize him. The man was found in the Yonge and Eglinton area around 6 a.m. on January 23rd. He was in medical distress and was rushed to hospital where he died, but his death is not considered suspicious. The man had no identification, and he is described as approximately 5'5", 140 pounds, with short, dark brown hair and a short gray and brown beard. He was wearing a black long-sleeved shirt, dark pants, and black boots. Police say he was experiencing homelessness. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators staged a sit-in outside the U.S. consulate downtown today. They're continuing to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and an arms embargo from the Canadian government to Israel. The sit-in coming days after another protest led to outrage after it passed by Mount Sinai Hospital. Tyler Cheese has more.
Stop arming genocide! Protesters gathered for a sit-in at University Avenue and Armory Street this morning.
We're here standing in front of the U.S. consulate demanding an arms embargo as both Canada and the United States are complicit in this genocide.
Yesterday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau released a joint statement with his counterparts in Australia and New Zealand calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. But for some, that call has come too late.
The Canadian government has taken a very long time to call for a ceasefire, and now we are at 30,000 Palestinians that have been killed in this genocide.
The protesters say the embargo banning Canadian manufacturers from supplying materials to Israel would show that the government is acting in good faith.
It's time for his actions to match his words.
In the meantime, the protesters also addressed video that emerged on Monday of a protester climbing Mount Sinai Hospital waving a Palestinian flag. Gur Sabar was also at that rally.
There was no explicit protest targeted at Mount Sinai. That was the only targets of that protest were the Israeli consulate and the U.S. consulate.
He says that protesters who climbed the hospital also climbed other buildings and structures along University Avenue.
The fact that everybody portrayed it as some type of anti-Semitic incident is the definition of insanity. It's literally what we call weaponizing anti-Semitism.
Leaders of a number of Toronto hospitals signed a letter denouncing the demonstration. And politicians, including the Prime Minister and Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow, also condemned the actions of protesters. But today, Chow told CBC's Metro Morning she's not entirely sure what happened.
I wasn't there. I haven't seen a police report on that event. Right now, there seems to be different interpretation.
She says it's ultimately up to police to monitor these situations and encourages protesters to gather in public spaces like Nathan Phillips Square away from healthcare facilities. Tyler Cheese, CBC News.
Welcome back. The Ford government got a bit of a boost today from some Ontario physicians, saying the provincial government's plans to move more medical procedures to private clinics will help Ontario's struggling healthcare system. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, explains why they're speaking out.
A hip replacement in progress at Toronto's Humber River Hospital. The surgical teams here have their operating room running so smoothly that they now do a hip replacement on the typical patient in just 35 minutes.
We're able to help 14 people today that are all going to go home within the same day, which is, pretty unique.
Hip replacements are among the OHIP covered surgeries that will soon be performed in independent clinics outside of hospital under a new plan by the Ford government.
When it comes to your health, the health of all Ontarians, the status quo is no longer acceptable.
These three doctors all support the Premier's plan.
When you restrict surgeries to being only done in the hospital, it really limits the access for patients to care.
The sky's the limit as to what we can do. We can take a tremendous amount of pressure off of the hospitals in many different areas.
I think there's much to be learned by looking at other healthcare systems and not be scared by them.
These physicians all point to countries with universal healthcare, like Australia and Sweden, where many publicly funded surgeries and scans happen in private clinics.
What all of those systems found were both efficiencies in terms of the cost of delivery of care, improvement of the quality of care, and they absolutely tore through their wait times.
While Ontario's wait times for most surgeries are among the shortest in Canada, they're far longer than in countries where independent clinics take on some of the work.
These models of care exist all around the world. We're not inventing anything new here in Ontario. We're actually playing catch-up.
One big concern from critics of the plan, Ontario's hospitals are already facing a staffing crunch. So when nurses and doctors move to these clinics, how can things not get worse? The physicians answer, in a specialized clinic, staff will be able to work more efficiently than they can in a general hospital.
Hip and knee fit perfectly into this. It is basically a very repetitious procedure.
They're taking a lot of the work that is kind of grunt work out of the hospital and letting the hospital concentrate on what it needs to concentrate on, which is complex care.
The government is yet to say how many of these clinics will be created across Ontario or where they will go, but a spokesperson for the health minister says that main targets will be places where the wait lists are longer than the provincial average. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Ford also says he's moving to ban tolls on provincially owned highways, but the new rule won't be in effect for the pricey 407. Lorenda Redekop explains why.
Introducing legislation that would, if passed, ban tolls on provincial highways.
The transportation minister teased more of his upcoming Get It Done bill. That means highways such as the 401, Don Valley Parkway, and Gardiner Expressway will be toll-free. But they already are. Almost 8 years ago, then Mayor John Tory proposed tolling the DVP to help out the city.
And it is time that we stop being treated as a little boy going up to Queen's Park in short pants to say, please, could you help me out?
But the user fees were shot down by then Premier Kathleen Wynne. And both the DVP and the Gardiner were recently uploaded from the city to the province.
First of all, it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. There's only one highway that I know of that has tolls on it, and so I think this government is absolutely trying to once again distract from, I think, a whole bunch of other issues and problems that the people of Ontario are really concerned about.
The transportation minister was asked about that toll highway, the 407.
That's a private entity. We're looking at ensuring that we deliver relief to drivers in Ontario.
Except the most eastern stretch of it, that green line, is provincially owned. An Auditor General's report 2 years ago found the province brought in $47.7 million in tolls for the most recent year it looked at. The Ford government removed the charges on highways 412 and 418 since that report. Sarkaria's press secretary confirms the province will not be removing its 407 tolls, saying this ban only applies to new tolls. In a release, the Green Party called this announcement a meaningless piece of political theater. It says if the government really wants to save Ontarians money, it should expand GO service and offer reliable transit options. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Affordable housing was the hot topic at a fireside chat this evening with Mayor Olivia Chow, and the conversation was hosted by CBC Metro Morning's David Common.
How is it that we have found ourselves with the worst housing affordability crisis in the G7? How do you think that happened?
Came back to the question when I answered it in saying that we did not have a national housing strategy. Both the federal and the provincial government exited. We did not build housing.
The conversation was organized by ULI Toronto and the University of Toronto School of Cities on affordable housing. The event covered a lot of ground, including addressing our housing crisis, modular housing, accessibility to housing, and homelessness. Let's return to our top story now. A bit of a blast of winter for Toronto. And Victor, tonight the wind is the real weather factor, with the snow kind of petering off there earlier in the evening.
You know, that wind, which you did just speak about, is also going to be the big factor when we start our morning tomorrow. 62 kilometers per hour we are expecting to experience when we start our day. But by the time we get closer to noon, you can see that wind is going to ease up, coming right back down to 36 kilometers per hour. And as you do get closer to your commute home, we can see it gets right back down, closer to the teens, the high teens, that is. But much better than the 72 kilometer per hour winds, which we're currently in the middle of right now. Now, here's what it's going to look like what we're expecting over the next couple of days into your weekend. Now, we do see that Arctic air mass is worked its way down to southeastern Ontario, which is why we're going to be feeling a lot more colder temperatures. But it is getting a bit warmer, as we just did talk about, because as we get closer to your Monday, you're going to notice that a lot of that blue is going to move itself up north. And as it moves itself up north, we get more green where we're located, and that means that's warmer temperatures, which will be happening. Back to the milder temperatures by the middle of next week, but we'll slowly and gradually get there. Now, here's what it looks like by the time our show is going to be done into your overnight. We're going to be getting a bit of mixed flurries still passing by, but you can see a lot of it's going to be staying further southwest of where we are and even northeast of where we're located. But for the GTA itself, lightly getting dusting with the snow. It's not going to be anything really thick or heavy when you start your day. As you get later on towards noon and towards your commute home, you're going to still be getting light amounts of snowfall. As you can see here right around 7, we're going to get a little bit of snow, but again, it's nothing really big, nothing to really worry about. Now, overnight tonight, we are expecting it to get quite cold, but when we do take a quick peek at our 3- and 5-day forecast, what does it tell us? Well, it shows us we're expecting a bit of flurries and a bit of sun and cloud when it comes to your Friday. Saturday and Sunday, we can see that snow coming in still, but as you take a look towards your Monday, Tuesday, you can see finally the weather is starting to get a little bit warmer. But until then, we got to get through this wind. Stay warm, Toronto, and stay safe, and make sure you stay grounded, as it is very windy out there. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, good advice. Thank you, Victa. And we're going to hop on a quick break. When we return, we'll take you to the auto show. We'll be right back. Ending the show in high gear tonight at the auto show, back for another spin at the convention center. And the event technically gets underway tomorrow, making for some weekend plans perhaps. But today, our Dale Manukduk was there for Media Day.
45 car brands are strutting their stuff at the 2024 Canadian International Auto Show, including 30 models making their Canadian debut.
The Taycan Turbo S.
We've got a bigger EV test track. We've got 15 different vehicles that people can test for themselves, an EV vehicle inside the building, also another dozen outside that they can take for test drives, and a much, much expanded focus on exotics. We have the biggest collection of exotic cars we've ever had at the show.
There's lots of must-see cars at the show. This Porsche set the world record for driving to the highest altitude.
What's even more special is that in addition to that record, the car was powered by e-fuels. And e-fuels essentially is a combination of water and carbon dioxide that is then put in the vehicle without any modification that allows it to run. And then the exhaust essentially is the same amount of carbon dioxide that was put in. So essentially it's a carbon neutral fuel.
But there's also several unique attractions like the 1957 Barbie Chevy Corvette.
Cars are a part of, I think, all of our childhoods, you know, whether it's rolling our Hot Wheels die-cast around or jumping them through loops or, you know, putting Barbie in her iconic dream car.
This is one of the more fun things you can do at the auto show. This is Camp Jeep, where you can go off-roading on this obstacle course in one of their plug-in hybrids or EVs.
If you live here in the city, it's sometimes not easy to find a trail, and you want to see what the capability of these Jeep vehicles are. And this is a very condensed, very thrilling way to get that experience.
My personal favorite attraction was this low rider made of Lego. It's the first time it's come to Toronto. 16 people spent 600 hours making it, and it has functioning hydraulics. The car show is open to the public from February 16th to the 25th. Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
What a cool assignment for Dale there. Lots to see. That's it for us, though, tonight. I'll be back with you tomorrow night at 11. And we'll see you then.